Welcome back to Sovereign Judgment. This one is about an HOA president who thought a tow notice was power, right up until he discovered the asphalt under his own tires had never belonged to him. He had the badge on his golf shirt, the laminated parking rules, and a board that had stopped asking questions years earlier. I had a deed, a tax parcel number, and 17 years of patience sitting in a manila folder. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from. I always like seeing how far these stories travel. Here is what happened. The first thing I heard was the hydraulic whine of the tow truck bed lowering behind my office window. It was 8:14 on a gray Thursday morning in October, cold enough that the breath coming out of the driver's mouth looked like steam from a vent. The asphalt behind Pine Harbor Estates clubhouse still held last night's rain in shallow puddles, and the yellow strobe lights from the tow truck broke apart in every one of them. My old Ford was already hooked. Not lifted yet, not gone, just hooked. A man in a navy polo stood 10 feet away with both hands on his hips, watching like he had ordered a demolition instead of a tow. His name was Reginald Mason, president of the Pine Harbor Estates Homeowners Association, and he had spent the previous 2 weeks telling everyone I was illegally occupying HOA property. He was wrong about the truck. He was wrong about the property. But what mattered that morning was that he had also parked his own black Escalade diagonally across 2 spaces in the same lot, engines still ticking, tires still wet, HOA president placard still hanging from the mirror. Deputy Carla Wynn arrived at 8:19. She stepped out of her cruiser, looked at the tow truck, looked at my Ford, then looked at Reginald's Escalade. I handed her 1 certified deed, 1 recorded survey, and 1 notice of license termination, delivered 11 days earlier. Reginald said, "This is an HOA enforcement matter." Deputy Wynn read the parcel number twice. Then she looked at him and said, "Mr. Mason, the only vehicle currently trespassing on this lot is yours." That was the moment his face changed. Not with anger. He had been angry before. This was different. This was the moment a man realized the ground beneath him had stopped cooperating. To understand how he got there, you have to go back to the beginning. My name is Daniel Mercer. I am 52 years old, and for 26 of those years I have worked as a certified general real estate appraiser in the state of Maryland. My specialty is mixed-use property, boundary conflicts, and partial interest valuation. That means I spend most of my professional life reading deeds, comparing surveys, checking easements, and explaining to people that what they have always assumed is often not what the county records say. It is quiet work. Most of it happens in fluorescent light, with county maps open on one screen and chain of title documents spread across a desk. I have always liked it, because the records do not care who speaks loudest. A deed does not become stronger because someone prints it on better letterhead. A boundary line does not move because a board president points at it. The property at the center of this story was not impressive at first glance. It was a rectangular asphalt lot at the south edge of Pine Harbor Estates, measuring 0.84 acres, bordered by a row of sweet gum trees on one side and a drainage ditch on the other. It had 42 striped parking spaces, 2 rusted light poles, a small brick utility shed, and a faded white sign near the entrance that said, "Mercer Lot," in lettering my grandfather painted himself in 1987. My grandfather, Thomas Mercer, bought that piece of ground in 1979 for $18,400, back when Pine Harbor was still pine woods, 2 cattle roads, and a county boat ramp half a mile away. He operated Mercer Marine Supply out of a low cinder block building across the street. He sold rope, batteries, outboard parts, and coffee that had been sitting too long on a warmer. When the subdivision was built in the early 1990s, the developer asked him if residents could use his rear lot for overflow parking during holiday events at the clubhouse. My grandfather agreed because he liked people, and because he believed neighbors should be easy with each other when no one was being taken advantage of. But he was not careless. On March 3, 1992, he signed a 1-page parking license with Pine Harbor Development Group. Not an easement, not a conveyance, not a permanent right, a revocable license. It allowed residents to park in the lot during posted community events, in exchange for $1 per year, and written proof of liability insurance, naming him as an additional insured. The license could be terminated by either party, with 10 days written notice. I found that agreement for the first time when I was 23, helping him clean out a metal file cabinet after his first stroke. He tapped the paper with 2 fingers and said, "Danny, kindness should be written down. Otherwise, the next fellow may call it ownership." He died in 2008. My father kept the marine building for a while, but the business faded. People bought online. The lake traffic changed. Eventually, the front building was leased to a kayak repair shop, and the rear lot became the same quiet overflow lot it had always been. I inherited the property in 2019, after my father passed. By then, I lived 12 miles away, worked from a small appraisal office downtown, and visited the lot every other Saturday to check the lights, sweep glass, and make sure the drainage ditch was clear. It was not just asphalt to me. It was where my grandfather taught me to back a trailer using hand signals. It was where my father parked his green Dodge every morning at 6:10, even in February. It was where I sat on the tailgate after his funeral and listened to rain hit the hood of his truck because I could not go back into the house yet. That old white sign saying Mercer Lot was not decorative. It was a marker. I first met Reginald Mason on a Tuesday afternoon, September 14th, at 5:37 p.m. I remember the time because I wrote it down. I had parked my 1994 Ford F-350 in the lot while I inspected a water stain inside the utility shed. The truck had belonged to my father. It was white, with a blue lower panel, long bed, diesel engine, and 238,000 miles on the odometer. The paint on the roof had oxidized, and the bench seat still had a split on the driver's side that caught the back pocket of your jeans if you slid in too fast. I was kneeling by the shed door, checking the threshold, when I heard tires roll slowly across the asphalt. A black Escalade stopped behind my Ford at an angle that made leaving impossible. The driver's door opened, and Reginald Mason stepped out. He was in his late 60s, tall, broad-shouldered, with silver hair combed straight back, and a gold HOA lapel pin attached to a navy polo. He had a habit of lifting his chin before he spoke, as if every sentence needed a balcony. He carried a clipboard. That was the first thing I noticed. Not a phone, not a casual note. A clipboard with printed forms, highlighted sections, and a pen clipped at the top. He had come prepared for a performance. "You the owner of this vehicle?" he asked. I stood, wiped my hands on a rag, and said, "Yes." "This is restricted HOA parking," he said. "Unregistered commercial vehicles are not permitted overnight, during events, or during board operations." I looked at my truck. It had been there 18 minutes. "I'm not overnight," I said. He ignored that. "You'll need to move it immediately. Next time it gets tagged. Third violation is tow at owner's expense." He pulled a yellow notice from the clipboard and held it against my windshield under the wiper before I said anything else. The paper had the Pine Harbor Estates crest at the top, a blue heron standing over a shield, and underneath it the words, "Private HOA Lot, Unauthorized Vehicle Notice." I read it once. Then I looked back at him and asked, "Which parcel do you believe this lot sits on?" It was a simple question. People who actually control land can usually answer it. They may need to check the number, but they know the source of their authority. Deed, easement, lease, license, plat dedication, something. Reginald smiled in the practiced way people do when they think a question is beneath the room. "It belongs to the association," he said. That was not my question. His smile tightened. "This lot has served Pine Harbor residents for over 30 years. That also was not my question." He took one step closer. Not enough to be threatening. Just enough to signal rank. "I am the HOA president, Mr. Mercer," I said. His eyes moved to the faded sign near the entrance. For a second, he understood enough to dislike me. Then he recovered. "Well, Mr. Mercer, I suggest you familiarize yourself with the community parking rules before this becomes expensive." I removed the yellow notice from my windshield, folded it once, and placed it in the passenger seat of my Ford. Then I took a photograph of his Escalade blocking my truck, another photograph of him standing beside it, and one close photo of the notice. He watched me do it. "Documenting?" he asked. "Yes?" "Good," he said. "So are we." He got back into the Escalade and drove away, leaving 2 black arcs of water where his tires had turned. I did not move my truck for another 42 minutes. I finished inspecting the shed. I photographed the rotted threshold. I locked the door. Then I drove home, and opened the file cabinet in my study. My grandfather's records were still arranged the way he had kept them. Deeds in red folders, taxes in green, insurance in yellow, correspondence in blue. He had written dates on every tab in block letters with a black marker. I pulled the folder marked Pine Harbor License 1992. Inside were 6 documents. The original parking license dated March 3, 1992. A canceled check for $1 from Pine Harbor Development Group. A certificate of insurance from Lake Bend Mutual. A 1998 letter from the developer confirming that the license would not transfer without written consent. A 2004 note from my grandfather stating that the association had stopped sending insurance certificates. And a copy of the recorded deed for parcel 14-7-221B, the rear lot. The deed was clear. Grantor, Bellwether Timber Company. Grantee, Thomas J. Mercer. Legal description, Lot B, of the Mercer Commercial Tract, 0.84 acres, as shown on Plat Book 22, page 118, Harrow County Records. No easement reservation, no dedication to the subdivision, no transfer to the HOA. I set those papers on my desk and started where I always start, public records. At 7:10 that evening, I logged into the Harrow County GIS portal and searched parcel 14-7-221B. Owner of record, Mercer Land Holdings LLC. Mailing address, my office. Tax status, current. Zoning, neighborhood commercial. Parking use, permitted as accessory paved lot. Then I searched the adjoining clubhouse parcel, 14-7-220A. Owner, Pine Harbor Estates Homeowners Association, Inc. Legal description, clubhouse tract only, 1.26 acres, ending at the north edge of the drainage swale. The lot was south of that swale. Separate parcel, separate ownership. I downloaded the assessor map, the tax card, the recorded plat, and the deed index. At 8:02 p.m., I checked the Harrow County Register of Deeds for the HOA's governing documents. Declaration recorded May 18, 1991. First Amendment in 1994. Second in 2003. Restatement in 2016. I searched every document for the words parking, overflow, Mercer, license, lot, easement, and commercial. Nothing gave the HOA ownership. Nothing gave them enforcement authority over my parcel. There was one reference in the 2016 restatement to association-managed overflow parking areas adjacent to the clubhouse, but it did not identify a parcel number, did not attach a plat, and did not include any grant from an owner. That language was not property ownership. It was wishful drafting. Then I searched the state business registry. Pine Harbor Estates Homeowners Association, Inc. was active. Registered agent, Reginald Mason. Principal office, clubhouse address. Last annual report filed February 11th. I searched for recorded easements from Mercer to Pine Harbor. No results. I searched for memoranda of agreement. No results. I searched old scanned indexes from 1979 through 1995. No results. At 9:14 p.m., I found the flaw that made the rest of the story inevitable. The 1992 license had never been renewed after the developer transferred control to the HOA in 1996. Under paragraph 4, assignment required the owner's written consent. My grandfather had never given it. Under paragraph 6, the user had to provide annual insurance certificates. None had been sent after 2004. Under paragraph 8, either party could terminate on 10 days written notice. In plain terms, Pine Harbor had been using my lot for years only because my family had allowed it. Not because they owned it, not because they had rights, because no one had stopped them. I closed the folder at 9:31 p.m., wrote one sentence in my notebook, and underlined it. They are enforcing rules on land they do not control. I told no one. For 9 days, Reginald Mason escalated with the confidence of a man who believed history was the same thing as ownership. On September 16th, a second notice appeared under my truck's windshield wiper while I was inside the kayak shop reviewing a lease renewal. This one said, "Final warning before tow," and listed a $250 administrative fine. The fine was addressed to unknown owner of white commercial truck. The truck was registered personally to me. It was not commercial. The lot was mine. But I photographed the notice at 11:22 a.m. sealed it in a plastic sleeve, and wrote the weather conditions on the back, because the paper was damp from light rain. On September 17th, Reginald posted in the Pine Harbor Residence Forum. I was not a member, but my tenant, Marion Voss, sent me screenshots. The post said, "The board is aware of an unauthorized outside individual attempting to use association parking for personal storage. We are taking legal steps to protect resident property and preserve the safety of our clubhouse area." Under it, he attached a cropped photograph of my Ford. He did not include the Mercer lot sign visible 6 feet away. I saved the screenshot with the timestamp. At 6:48 that evening, a woman named Elise Hartwell commented, "Isn't that the old Mercer lot?" Reginald replied, "The HOA has maintained and controlled that area for decades. Please do not spread misinformation." That reply mattered later. On September 18th, the HOA sent a letter to the kayak shop, my tenant, claiming that continued association with the unauthorized vehicle owner could affect the shop's ability to serve residents under community access expectations. Marion called me at 8:05 that morning, her voice low and embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't even know what they mean." "They are pressuring you," I said. "Do not respond. Send me the envelope." She did. The envelope was postmarked from Harrow Crossing, and the letter was signed by Reginald Mason as HOA president. It had no attorney letterhead, no legal citation, just vague force dressed as official language. On September 20th, I received a certified letter at my office. It demanded that I remove all unauthorized vehicles, tools, signs, and commercial materials from the HOA parking lot within 72 hours, or face towing, fines, and all remedies available under the governing documents. Attached was a page titled Exhibit A, Pine Harbor Parking Enforcement Map. The map showed the clubhouse, pool, mail kiosk, and my lot shaded in blue as HOA Common Parking. That map had been created on September 19th. It had no surveyor seal, no county stamp, no recorded plat reference. In the lower right corner, in small gray text, it said, "Prepared by RM." Reginald had made his own map and used it to claim my property. I remember sitting at my desk with that letter in front of me, hearing the old radiator click beneath the window. I felt anger then, not the hot kind, the older, heavier kind that comes when someone touches something your family protected and assumes silence means weakness. I put the letter in a sleeve. I did not call him. I did not post online. I did not drive to the clubhouse. I opened a new binder and labeled it Pine Harbor, Trespass/Interference, False Claims. By September 22nd, the binder had 4 sections: property records, communications, photographs, and third-party impacts. The third-party section grew faster than I expected. Elise Hartwell, the neighbor who had questioned Reginald online, called my office after Marion gave her my number. She was 71, widowed, and had lived in Pine Harbor since 1995. She told me the HOA had fined her $800 the previous year for parking her son's hospice nurse's car in the overflow lot during overnight visits. They said it was common area, she told me. "Did you pay it?" "Yes," she said. I was tired. She still had the notice. She sent me a copy. It cited Article 9, Section 14 of the parking rules. I had the governing documents open in front of me when I read it. There was no Article 9, Section 14. The declaration had only 8 articles. The parking rules had 12 sections. The citation was fabricated, not mistaken, not misnumbered, fabricated. That same afternoon, another resident, Paul Kenner, sent me a 2024 notice charging him $175 for using HOA overflow spaces while the clubhouse lot was being repaved. His notice carried the same non-existent Article 9, Section 14. By then, I understood the pattern. Reginald had not only claimed my land casually, he had monetized it. He had used a lot the HOA did not own to issue fines to residents who believed they had no choice but to pay. That changed the size of the problem. On September 23rd, I called Marin Keller. Marin is a property and HOA attorney in Ashford Mills, a fictional city people in Harrow County drive to when local disputes become too serious for handshakes. She is 60, direct, and has the unsettling patience of someone who enjoys watching bad paperwork collapse under its own weight. I had worked with her on appraisal litigation for 14 years. I sent her a digital package at 10:30 a.m. It contained the deed, plat, 1992 license, tax cards, governing documents, screenshots, letters, notices, and Elise Hartwell's fine. At 2:15 p.m., she called. Her first words were, "Daniel, they have a problem." I said, "How large? Civilly? Significant. Politically? Severe. If the fine revenue went into HOA accounts under false authority, possibly worse. But do not move until we make the record clean." That was exactly why I had called her. I asked her the question that mattered. If I terminate any permissive use and restrict parking on my lot, can they stop me? No, she said. Not if the documents are what you sent me. But we are going to make it boring. Boring wins. Boring wins. That became the principle. On September 24th, Marin prepared 3 letters. The first was a notice of termination of revocable parking permission. It was addressed to Pine Harbor Estates Homeowners Association, Inc., Reginald Mason as registered agent, and every board member listed on the state filing. It cited Parcel 14-7-221B, the 1992 license, the assignment clause, the insurance clause, and the 10-day termination provision. It stated that any permission to use the lot would terminate at 12:01 a.m. on October 5. The second was a demand to cease false claims of ownership or control. It instructed the HOA to stop representing my lot as common area, stop issuing fines based on use of my lot, and preserve all records relating to parking enforcement from January 1, 2019, forward. The third was a tenant protection notice to Marion Voss, confirming that the kayak shop's lease was unaffected and that any interference by the HOA should be forwarded to council. Each letter was sent by certified mail, regular mail, and email. Marin also hired Samuel Ortiz, a licensed surveyor with Harrow Boundary Services, to perform an updated boundary survey. He placed orange-capped stakes along the north property line, 6 inches south of the drainage swale, and marked the parcel corners with steel pins. His sealed survey, dated September 27th, confirmed the existing asphalt lot sat entirely on my parcel. No overlap, no shared boundary ambiguity, no access easement. I paid him $2,850 and placed his invoice in the binder. Next, I contacted Greer Lighting and Security to inspect the 2 lot lights and install 4 cloud-connected cameras on poles already permitted for site monitoring. The cameras faced only my property and the entrance drive. No private homes, no clubhouse interior, no pool. The installation was completed September 29th at 3:40 p.m. I ordered signs from Harrow Signworks. They were not dramatic. They were not threatening. White reflective aluminum, 18 by 24 inches. Private property, Mercer Land Holdings, LLC parking. By written permission, only unauthorized vehicles, subject to tow, after notice. Harrow County Code, Section 18-44. Marin reviewed the language before I approved the order. I also signed a towing service agreement with Lennox Recovery, a licensed local operator. The contract required photographic evidence, a written warning period, confirmation from me or my attorney, and compliance with county towing rules. No vehicle would be removed unless it had received notice and remained after the stated period, except in the case of blocked access or emergency obstruction. Every step was documented. Every warning was issued. Every route was lawful. Reginald received the termination notice on September 25th at 9:16 a.m. He signed for it himself. At 10:02 a.m., he emailed Marin and copied all 7 board members. His email began, "Your client's claims are frivolous, inflammatory, and contrary to 30 years of HOA control." He attached his Exhibit A map again. Then he wrote the sentence that later destroyed him. "The association will continue to enforce parking rules on the Mercer lot as common area until a court orders otherwise." Marin forwarded the email to me with no comment except, "Preserved." On September 26th, Reginald posted again in the residence forum. Outside agitators are attempting to deprive homeowners of parking rights that belong to the community. The board will not be intimidated by paper games. By then, more residents were asking questions. Someone posted a screenshot of the county GIS map. Reginald deleted it. Someone else asked why the lot sign said Mercer. Reginald replied, "Old signage does not defeat association use rights." He did not know every deletion was being captured by residents who had grown tired of him. On October 1st, the HOA placed orange cones around 2 rows of spaces in my lot for a board appreciation dinner scheduled that Friday. The cones had printed cards taped to them. Reserved, HOA board. I photographed them at 6:12 p.m. Then I removed nothing. That detail matters. I did not touch their cones. I did not block access. I did not confront anyone. I documented the trespass and allowed the record to mature. On October 3rd, Reginald left a voicemail at my office. His voice was smooth at first. "Mr. Mercer, this is Reginald Mason, Pine Harbor HOA president. I am giving you a courtesy opportunity to move your truck and retract your attorney's letter before enforcement becomes unavoidable." Then his tone changed. "You may own some paperwork somewhere, but this lot has been ours in practice for decades. Courts recognize that. Your vehicle will be towed if it remains. That is not a threat. That is policy." He hung up. I saved the voicemail in 3 places. At 5:30 that afternoon, I drove to the lot and sat in my Ford with the windows down. The air smelled like wet leaves and lake mud. Across the street, Marion was closing the kayak shop, flipping the open sign to closed. The clubhouse lights were on, and I could see silhouettes moving behind the blinds. This was the part most people misunderstand. Patience does not feel peaceful while you are practicing it. It feels like letting someone walk across your floor with muddy boots, because you need the footprints. On October 5th, at 12:01 a.m., the license terminated. At 7 a.m., Harrow Signworks installed the private property signs at the entrance and along both sides of the lot. Samuel Ortiz returned and placed 3 taller boundary markers with small metal tags showing parcel 14-7, 221B. At 7:45, I photographed every sign. At 8:10, I emailed final notice to the HOA board. The lot was no longer available for association parking without written permission. Any vehicle entering after that date would receive a written warning, and repeat or continued violations would be handled under county code. At 8:34, Reginald replied, "This association does not recognize your unilateral attempt to seize community parking." I read it once and printed it. The decisive moment came 6 days later, October 11th. The HOA had scheduled a Saturday covenant compliance workshop at the clubhouse. Reginald expected a full crowd because residents had been complaining about fines, parking, and board secrecy. He also expected to use my lot. At 8:02 a.m., the first resident car entered the lot, saw the signs, slowed, and backed out. At 8:11, a silver Honda stopped near the entrance. The driver, an older man in a green jacket, got out, read the sign, and parked across the street instead. At 8:18, Reginald arrived in his Escalade. He did not slow down. He drove past the private property sign, past 2 boundary stakes, and parked diagonally across spaces 12 and 13, like he wanted the cameras to understand his confidence. At 8:21, he walked to my Ford, which was parked in space 4, with my written owner authorization displayed on the dashboard. He placed a red tow sticker on the driver's window. I was inside Marion's shop watching through the front window. The sticker said, "Unauthorized vehicle, subject to immediate removal." He then called Lennox Recovery. That was his mistake. He had apparently taken the number from one of my private property signs and assumed a tow company would respond to whoever sounded official. At 8:39, Lennox Recovery arrived. The driver was named Brian Pike, 43, license number LR7712. He had a shaved head, a gray beard, and the bored expression of a man who had seen every property dispute in the county. Reginald met him near my Ford, holding his clipboard. "That one," he said, pointing at my truck. "Unauthorized." Brian looked at the sign, then at the authorization card on my dashboard, then at the service agreement on his tablet. "Who are you with?" Brian asked. "Pine Harbor Estates HOA." Brian said, "This contract is with Mercer Land Holdings. I am the HOA president." That does not answer my question. I stepped out of the kayak shop then. I had my binder under one arm and my phone recording openly in my right hand. "Mr. Pike," I said, "I'm Daniel Mercer. That vehicle is authorized by the property owner." Reginald turned sharply. "You are creating a scene," he said. "No," I said. "I'm clarifying ownership." He pointed toward my truck. "That vehicle has been warned repeatedly. I am ordering it removed. You have no authority to order removals from this parcel." He laughed once, short and flat. "We'll see what the deputy says." I agreed. Reginald called the sheriff's non-emergency line himself, on speaker. He described me as a disruptive outside property claimant interfering with HOA parking enforcement. Those were his words. At 9:03, Deputy Carla Wynn arrived. She listened to Reginald first. I respected that. Good officers listen before they decide. He gave her the long version. 30 years of use. Association control. Community reliance. My truck. My attorney's intimidation. His duty to preserve homeowner rights. Then Deputy Wynn turned to me. I handed her the certified deed, the survey, the tax card, the termination notice, the delivery confirmation, and the towing contract. She read quietly. Reginald kept talking until she raised one hand. "Mr. Mason," she said, "do you have a deed, easement, lease, court order, or written authority from the owner of parcel 147-221B? He said, "We have historic use." That was not my question. I did not smile when she said it, but I remembered saying the same thing. He held out his Exhibit A map. "This is the association parking map." Deputy Wynn looked at the lower right corner. "Prepared by RM," she read. "Is that you?" "As HOA president, yes." "Was this recorded with the county?" "It is an internal enforcement document." "Was it prepared by a licensed surveyor?" "It reflects operational reality." She handed it back. "Operational reality is not a property interest." That sentence did more than any argument I could have made. Then she looked at his Escalade. "Is that your vehicle?" Reginald's jaw moved once. "Yes." "You passed posted private property signs to park here after written notice was delivered to the HOA?" "This is contested." "Not today it isn't," she said. "Today I have a deed, a survey, and a property owner. I do not have a court order giving you possession." Brian Pike stood beside the tow truck with both arms crossed. A small group of residents had gathered near the clubhouse walkway. Elise Hartwell was there, wearing a red raincoat. Marion stood in the doorway of the kayak shop. The air was still cold, and every sound carried. Deputy Wynn said, "Mr. Mason, move your vehicle off this lot now. Do not attempt to tow Mr. Mercer's truck. If you continue directing enforcement here without legal authority, I will document it as trespass and attempted unauthorized removal." Reginald looked at me then. For the first time since I had met him, he did not speak immediately. The lot was quiet, except for the tow truck idling. He removed the red sticker from my window himself. It came off in 2 pieces and left adhesive behind. I photographed that too. Then he got into his Escalade and moved it across the street to the clubhouse parcel. He did not look at the residents when he walked inside. That should have ended it. But men like Reginald Mason often prefer losing publicly once to admitting privately they were wrong. 3 days later, on October 14th,